Yo, what's good, family? Welcome back to the Urban Concrete, the only spot on the digital pavement where we keep it 100, no chaser. We're digging into the real today, looking at the structures of power, the culture, and the players who think they're playing the game, but might just be getting played. Today, we got to talk about the situation that has been bubbling up between Myron Gaines of Fresh and Fit and the legendary Corey Holcomb. Now, if you've been on these YouTube streets, you know Myron likes to talk heavy about accountability, especially when it comes to the Black community. But we're about to pull the receipts and analyze the energy because, as the saying goes, the math ain't mathing. We're looking at the linguistic roots of these arguments, the cultural history behind the approval trap, and the hard facts of who actually has your back when the camera's cut off. Strap in, it's about to get real. Let's set the scene. A few days ago, Myron Gaines decided to jump into the situation between Corey Holcomb and Anton Daniels. And in typical Myron fashion, he didn't just disagree, he went for the jugular. He called Corey emotional, labeled him a black liberal, and a black apologist. Now we gotta analyze that language. In the world of the manosphere, calling a man emotional is the ultimate attempt to strip him of his logic and status. But here's the argument. Myron is criticizing Corey for not holding black people accountable. Yet Myron's own energy is completely different depending on who he's talking to. If Corey Holcomb sat down with Myron, he'd bring that same raw energy he gives everyone else. But the argument being made by observers like O'Shea Duke Jackson is that Myron has all the smoke for the blacks, but none for the whites. That's a heavy charge. Let's look at why that argument carries weight. To understand the present, we got to look at 2022. Back then, Nick Fuentes, a known white supremacist, was basically down at the bottom. He was banned, couldn't get a federal bank account, and nobody in the mainstream would touch him. Even major conservative players like Patrick Bet-David and Candace Owens were keeping their distance because it was risky to have him on. But Myron Gaines, he stepped up. Myron and the Fresh and Fit crew were on top of the world at the time. They had their monetization, their status, everything to lose. They gave Fuentes a massive platform, introducing him to a whole new audience. The argument is that Myron sacrificed his own career stability to help a man who doesn't even value his existence. Myron eventually got demonetized, while Nick Fuentes used that momentum to get interviewed by the New York Times and is now allegedly closing deals in gold. Think about that for a second. The person who took the biggest risk ended up losing the most, while the person he helped springboarded to new heights. The irony here is thick. You have a platform that prides itself on strategy and winning moves, yet this particular move looks like a massive L. Myron had everything to lose, and Fuentes had everything to gain. And that's exactly what played out. This isn't just a simple disagreement. It's a case study in misplaced loyalty and the consequences of who you choose to align with. It sets the stage for the double standard we're about to break down. This is where we got to do some deep analysis. When Myron and Nick Fuentes eventually had a falling out, partly because Fuentes didn't like Myron's manager, Myron handled it with class. He was respectful. He didn't throw shots. He even hugged the man when they saw each other recently. So, why is it that a man who calls black women out of their names and uses the N-word in Myron, own studio gets a respectful disagreement, but black men like Corey Holcomb or Tariq Nasheed get called apologists and emotional? This points to a cultural history of seeking validation from the outside. Historically, there's a psychological influence where individuals feel that moving up means aligning with the dominant power structure, even if that structure views them as disposable. As the sources point out, people in that outright circle have even suggested that if they had total, Myron would be sent back to Sudan. Yet, Myron refuses to call out that unfair treatment or the racism his own partner, Walter, faced at events like Amfest. There's a clear discrepancy in the energy. With one group, it's all about respectful dialogues and understanding. With his own community, it's about harsh accountability and criticism. This isn't just about being tough. It's about who you choose to be tough on and why. It raises the question, is this about genuine principle, or is it about gaining favor with a group that will never truly accept you. The pattern suggests a deep-seated need for approval from a power structure that, at its core, holds you in contempt. That's a dangerous game to play, because you fighting for a seat at a table where you not even on the guest list. Let's get into the heart of the argument. The source claims this is a failing model. Here's the reasoning. No other group, whether white, Hispanic, or otherwise, is out here sacrificing their entire platform to lift up someone who won't even help them up when they fall. Every smart player does things that benefit their own community and their own interests. Nick Fuentes is doing it for his people. He's getting interviewed by the Times, and mentioning Myron, his name, or offering him a dime of that gold deal to cover the lost monetization. He's building his own empire, and the ladder he used to climb up is now forgotten. In contrast, figures like Corey Holcomb, Tariq Nasheed, and Dr. Umar, whatever you think of them, have stayed loyal to their community. They haven't lost everything trying to get a pat on the head from people who don't appreciate them. Their model, while controversial to some, is sustainable because it's rooted in their own base. They build within their own community. Myron's model, on the other hand, appears to be self-destructive. He alienated a portion of his core audience and lost his platform's main revenue stream, all to help someone who wouldn't return the favor. It's a classic example of investing in an asset that gives you zero return. And in this case, it was a liability that cost him dearly. True power comes from building your own house, not from trying to get a room in someone else's. Let's break down the linguistic roots here. When Myron uses terms like accountability, he's using the language of self-improvement to mask what looks like a double standard. He's holding the line for a community that doesn't want him in the foxhole with them. The potential influence here is the desire for intellectual superiority. By siding against his own community, he perceives himself as more objective or red-pilled. He sees himself as above the fray, as someone who can dish out hard truths that others are too emotional to accept. But the street-level reality, the urban truth, is that he got in bed with white supremacy, got his cheeks clapped, and they didn't even kiss him. That's a cold way to put it, but it illustrates the argument that he was used for his platform and then discarded once the other party went mainstream. The language of accountability is powerful, but it loses all meaning when it's not applied equally. You can't claim to be a truth teller if you only tell truths that are convenient for one group and damaging to your own. The real red pill is understanding that loyalty is a two-way street. If you're constantly giving it without receiving it, you're not a leader. You're a resource being exploited. That's the hard lesson here, written in the language of lost monetization and discarded alliances. At the end of the day, the urban concrete is built on the foundation of looking out for your own. You can't talk about accountability for your brothers while being a black apologist for people who would give you a glass of water in the desert. Myron Gaines proved Corey Holcomb right by showing that his loyalty is misplaced. You'd be better off developing your own people because, as we've seen, the system doesn't need you once it's done with you. The pursuit of clout from outside forces is a hollow victory, especially when it comes at the price of your own foundation. The ultimate power move is to build an empire so strong that others seek your approval, not the other way around. What do you think? Is Myron playing a high-level game, or is he just a useful tool that's outlived his usefulness? Sound off in the comments. This is the Urban Concrete. Stay solid, stay woke, and stay real. We out.